You're not going to make a plane and see your girls. Remember your girls. You don't care about the girls? You don't care about the girls. You don't care about the girls. Just hush. You don't care about the girls. Hello, everybody. Justin. American Airlines. Fuck this over. Sorry.
If you ever decided you wanted to travel and you were looking for help from airline staff to get something you want, one of the easiest and best ways to not have that happen is to freak out and start yelling at everybody in the terminal. That's just one of the easiest ways to not get it. And one of the first things I noticed, sadly, and this is actually absolutely disgusting to me, is that I can tell just from the background that they're at Charlotte International Airport. I seriously spend way too much time in airports. Now, while it's possible that this one guy is trying to calm this other guy down because they have daughters they need to get back to, my guess is that it's probably dogs, I'm not 100% sure, or pets of some kind. But this guy is really doing his absolute best, if they're a couple, which I'm just guessing they are. This one guy is doing his absolute best to be the best possible that he can be. Calming somebody down when they have lost their cool is something that's not easy to do because all the emotions are boiled up. And a lot of times what you'll see is both people just together fuel each other up and get even more angry or more whatever the emotion is. But this guy's trying to remain calm, knowing that getting explosive and getting angry at airport is not going to result in you getting what you want. So he's trying to be good about it, but this other guy, I'm guessing he's just not going to listen. Let's see.
Here we go, Justin. Here, I'm not kidding. You don't care about the girls? So I want to tell you about Shelby and Dolly. Shelby and Dolly. Shelby and Dolly. Remember them. I'm gonna do it for you. Shelby and Dolly. That's it. Shelby and Dolly. Remember. Remember them. Shelby and Dolly. Remember them.
That's actually a pretty good strategy. He knows that if he starts saying the names of Shelby and Dobby, whoever they are, to get this person to really focus on what the key is, which is safely getting home to the girls, Shelby and Dobby. And by using their name, he's actually getting that person to visualize them by continually saying like that. It's really a brilliant strategy. I don't know that's going to work, but...
I will. I am. I'm just trying to get home to the girls. Really. Look, I have much paper dogs.
Yep, that obviously didn't work. So it looks like, and I'm not 100% sure of this, but there's a woman with a dog sitting in a wheelchair. And since she's in one of those chairs, I'm gonna guess that she's older. Or she just wants to get on the plane early. Now, there is a term, which I, of course, do not use, but I have heard used at some point by some people, and it's a term called jetway Jesus. And what jetway Jesus means is you'll have 10 people in wheelchairs so they can get on the plane first, and then magically, when that plane lands at the destination point, nobody needs a wheelchair. That's called jetway Jesus. So I'm not sure if that's her situation or not, and it's really neither here nor there. She's politely sitting there in her chair, waiting to get on the plane with her dog, and she's telling that guy to like get away from him, or get away from her, and she has the right to do that. She can have her own space, and this guy obviously just wants to fight with everybody, is what it looks like. And my guess is somebody is back here at the ticket counter. They already called the airport police to the terminal. And if I was that other guy, I would be like, all right, cool, bro, see you later. I'm getting on that flight, because I don't see any logical reason for someone to act like this, regardless of the situation. I have had people treat me so rudely in uniform while I'm trying to work. There was a story even today, I don't even want to get into it. It was so irritating to me. I had to like bite down on my tongue. It's just the reality of the situation. I knew that that was just not the battle to fight with. So I just bit down on my tongue and I just waited my turn. I was so irritated. I had been operating all day and then this thing happened. I don't even want to get into it, but my point is that I've had people treat me in a way that I found completely unnecessary, and sometimes you just have to pick your battles. The time to pick your battle is not to blame an entire airline because you didn't get your way, regardless of what the situation is.
I'm coming here crying because my uncle died, and you guys are mocking me.
Sorry, I was busy reading the header there. Whose side are you on? So let me rewind this real quick and let me watch this again because I have to see this.
I'm coming here crying because my uncle died, and you guys are mocking me.
So apparently this lady's at the airport. Her uncle must have just died at the airport because she's standing there crying. And then apparently these ladies back there that she's filming are mocking her. I don't see that. Obviously, I can't see her crying, but that's not what it looks like to me so far. But who knows what's going to happen next.
We're not. You're trying to be funny, ma'am, and give us just a moment.
There's nothing funny about this.
She's recording us, by the way, too. She started to pull out her phone.
I already explained to you that you had missed your flight. Can you stop
And she's
recording my
stop
agents,
recording.
please?
Is it against the law?
Can you stop recording my
But is
agents?
it against the law?
But I already told
Is
you
it
that you
against
missed
the
your
law?
flight.
Oh, so what actually happened was this lady showed up late to her flight. And what I'm guessing is she showed up late to her flight. The boarding door had closed. Once they do that and they close the flight out, they don't open it up for any reason, regardless of what your situation is. They literally do not care. They've closed that flight out. And so this lady then probably proceeded to cry. And I'm sure that her uncle probably did die at some point, possibly just recently. But she thought that she had a very special circumstance because someone told her that she was special and that she would be able to use the fact that something that happened that has nothing to do with this airline operating, that she would be able to show up late on her own particular time schedule and that they would accommodate her. But unfortunately, that's not how it works in the real world. How it works is, regardless of what you have going on in your personal life, you have to show up to the airport on time. Now, if she had showed up there on time and sat there and cried in her seat and cried while she boarded and cried while she walked down the jetway, she would have been on the plane fine. They would have asked, ma'am, are you okay? And she could have said, yes, my uncle just died. And they would be like, I'm sure that same girl would have been super sweet to her. Or, option B, she could have shown up late, went to that girl or lady and said, ma'am, listen, my uncle just died. I'm sorry. I missed this flight. I'm so frazzled and I'm really apologize for what happened and I did miss this flight. What do you recommend that I do? But instead, what she chose to do is take out her camera, try to record this lady behind the ticket counter who, in my opinion, is acting super sweet. My thought is that she would have gladly helped her out if she had came and asked like that. But instead, the supervisor comes over, and it sounds like the supervisor had already told her she had missed her flight. So she's thinking that she can push on these other people and maybe end up getting her way. That's just not the way that it works. You have to follow the rules, and crying and screaming and throwing a tantrum like this guy is doing is never going to get you anywhere. Now, if I was one of these gate agents, and apparently it is not acceptable to tase people or body slam people now, so I wouldn't do that, obviously. What I would do is I would say to them, when you are ready to talk to me and not record me, I will be over here on my computer. And when you finish your Steven Spielberg moment of filming everything, you can come and talk to me like an adult. And I would just ignore them, go to my computer and do whatever y'all do. I've seen y'all typing in your computer. I know you're just hitting keys. I watched you guys do it. So I know that you're not doing anything really that important, but that's what I would do. I would go back there and just smash those keys until that person chilled out, however long it took, and they could just record all they want and I wouldn't interact with them until that was done. That would be probably the best case scenario. But the way that lady handled it, saying she used ma'am and she was being very polite. She said, be with her momentarily. You can't ask for anything nicer than that when someone is, my guess is, probably crying and throwing a big scene because she didn't get her way.
This has nothing to do with the dog. It has to do with you.
For what?
Okay? Whatever their complaint is right now, it's just they want you
They
off.
want the dog on the floor, and that's against the law.
Okay.
Whoa, a dog be on the floor is against the law? Okay, this should be very interesting.
Well,
Dogs can go
we're
anywhere.
not here for the dog.
What did I do?
Okay?
Because I'm sick and tired of discrimination.
People love their buzzwords today. So I'm guessing that the airline has a policy which requires for all animals to be on the ground by the owner's feet. Probably something along those lines. I'm just paraphrasing. Every airline's going to have their own wording for it. But since this guy wanted to jump on and use the big buzzwords of today, discrimination, I decided I would jump on the old Google machine and look up on a legal website, and this is what I found. It says, refers to when an individual or entity treats another individual or group in an unfair or unequal manner based on certain characteristics, including age, disability, ethnicity, gender, marital status, national origin, race, religion, sexual orientation. That was the most complete definition that I could find. Now, in fairness, it didn't say that those are the only things. It just said it includes those things, but it didn't say anything about dogs. I personally have seen people with service animals get on airplanes where they have the dog sitting at their feet, and those people are blind. I have also seen veterans that came back from combat that have their dog, which, just a guess here, it looks like a dog that they possibly served in combat with, that is now with them. Their partner, or their person that they operated with, or whatever, is now functioning in some type of an emotional support for treating PTSD. And these are big dogs. We're not talking about small dogs. We're talking about dogs that saw combat, big dogs. And those dogs are sitting at that person's feet. So they're able to get these large animals to sit at their feet. One is blind, like literally I can't see, and the other one has what I'm guessing is PTSD from a combat situation. And both of them were able to very easily comply with the dog sitting at their feet, but this guy has special circumstances. And I can already see you keyboard warriors out there writing, well, Kelsey, how do you know what their company policies are? So if I was smart enough to finish law school and become a lawyer and then get hired in an airline, what I'd be thinking about an animal like a dog sitting in a passenger seat would be, hey, let's say these pilots are going 120 knots down the runway and they have to abort their takeoff. What's going to happen to that dog? Well, it's possible the dog is now going to go shooting through the aisles, possibly into a passenger, because you have a doggy missile on the plane. Now, that dog is going to be hurt, and I'm just going to guess that the owner is going to want to sue over that. And guess who else is going to be hurt? Possibly the person that the doggy missile hit. So a person's going to be hurt, the dog is going to be hurt, and now they got to get off this plane quickly, and now you have an injured dog and an injured person. It's just a bad situation if you need to evacuate a plane. So that's scenario one. Oh, okay, let's say they get up in the air and everything's fine. Well, they're getting up and they're flying along. All of a sudden they hit this massive turbulence. So this dog, which is now sitting on the seat, goes flying in the air, and then the turbulence stops, and then all of a sudden that dog comes crashing down on the road right behind it on a small child. So now you have a small child that's injured, you have a dog that's covered in apple juice who's also upset and confused of what just happened, and so you have an injured child who parents probably are going to be suing, and a dog covered in apple juice, and the dog is not going to be happy, and probably the person with the dog is going to be like, oh, that's my bad, but it's going to be a real mess, and guess who's going to have that problem? The airline. So they come up with these policies, and those policies might say something like, all animals, regardless of service animal or whatever, needs to be on the floor, possibly under the seat or at the owner's feet, so that way there is less likelihood of them getting launched and becoming a doggy missile.
Okay, well, the thing is, it's a private entity here.
Okay, with federal funds. You guys are about to get so you better
and that's
read
fine.
the Constitution.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
But they want you off the plane, so
Not getting off.
Okay?
I love these guys when they're like, you're going to be getting off the plane. They're like, I'm not getting off. Like, oh, okay, so how do you think this is going to work? The pilots are going to go, oh, did he say he's not getting off? Well, let's go ahead and take off. So this guy's saying he's having his constitutional rights violated. Now, I'm not very smart, and I have looked at the Constitution, but all that fancy printing was too hard for my brain to read, so I've never really read it. However, and I roast people all the time for talking about things that they've never read or researched, but I am feeling very confident about this one. I'm pretty sure if you read the Constitution, at the very beginning, it doesn't say anything like, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, will allow everyone to bring their animals onto flying machines in the future whenever they see fit, regardless of who owns that said flying machine. I'm feeling pretty good that that clause is not in the Constitution, but apparently this guy's constitutional rights are being violated by his dog not being allowed to sit on a seat on a plane. Should be interesting.
I'm not getting off.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. We're going to deboard. So
Okay, keyboard.
go out.
Come on. Get off.
Get off.
I find it so interesting how these guys are being told that they're going to have to now deboard the plane. The person who's recording it isn't somebody sitting on the other aisle or sitting somewhere else that's recording through the seats. No, it's the person that's causing all of the mess is the one that's recording this. So that means that all of this happened. They turned an entire plane of people against him. They caused that entire plane to deboard. and delay where they were trying to go because his world is more important than everybody else's. But he recorded it and decided, you know what, I'm still right. I'm going to go ahead and post this on the internet so everybody can just tell me how right I was. I just find it interesting how many of these are people recording themselves being like this, and then they have the thought to go ahead and post that on the internet. That blows my mind.
All of us
You guys watch the language. I got my son right here. I know it's not.
Hold on. They're not gonna. If I put them on the floor,
Then what?
then I'll stay.
Oh, so now that they're going to deboard the plane and the whole plane is turned against him, he realizes that he's now getting kicked off, even though the flight crew said that they're not going and that the police officer said they're not taking him. Now that they're going to deplane, he knows that this is the end. So at least he has the rationale to know that he's seen some videos before where they deplane everybody, that's the end. He knows that that's it. And then he starts to be willing to violate his constitutional rights of having his dog sit in the seat next to him. Now, in the very beginning, when the officer was talking to him, I think if he had put the dog on the floor, there would have been a chance that the officer would have said something to the flight crew and maybe they would have been on their way. Usually when the police have arrived at the plane, it's pretty much over. That means he argued with the flight attendant, potentially argued with the pilot, and then the pilot just called because there's a thing that we have to do and we got to make a phone call and we got to write reports. We don't want to do that, but they would have to call somebody or speak to the gate agent, have the police come down. Usually by the time the police show up, it's all over. That police officer was being pretty friendly about it. I think, even though he said they don't want you on the plane and it's a private entity, I think that if he had said, okay, all right, it's fine, I'll put my dog on the floor, can we please go? There's a chance, because that officer was being super chill, there's a chance they would have still went. But instead, he wanted to keep recording how he was right and how his constitutional rights were being violated. Now, if more pilots would act like I would act, which is, hey, your dog can't sit there, it's our airline policy, just go ahead and put him on the floor and we can go. I don't do that. I'm going to count to 3. I don't debate it. It's just a real simple. Please put your dog on the floor and then we can go. It's our airline policy. He cannot be in that seat. And if the guy says anything but, oh, okay, that makes sense, then you just go, okay, no problem. And then you go get the police and then you kick him off the plane. There's nothing to it. If more people just held that line and didn't let people get out of control and just do whatever they want, then things like this wouldn't happen. People aren't held accountable now for their actions. And so you have somebody like this who clearly thought he could do whatever he wanted. And then once the whole plane started to turn against him, I think he realizes that, uh-oh, this is going to be a problem and I'm not going to get to go where I want to go. You get the behavior that you reward or the behavior that you reward by not punishing it. And y'all thought I was dumb for mostly flying cargo. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.